When I was 18 years old and my sister was 22, she had a baby boy named Luke with her then boyfriend, now her husband. However, they weren't interested in caring for Luke, so I took on the responsibility. I arranged for my grandmother to look after him while I finished high school, in exchange for helping out with household chores on weekends. My parents provided minimal financial support, which wasn't enough for raising a child. It was mainly my grandmother and I who took care of Luke. When I graduated from high school, my family kicked me out along with Luke because they didn't want to deal with us anymore. My sister even expressed regret for having Luke. I turned to my grandmother for help, and together we sought legal custody of him. Eventually, I became his legal guardian after my sister and her husband relinquished their rights. Living with my grandmother, I attended community college and worked part-time while she cared for Luke. When my grandmother passed away when Luke was 6, she left me most of her belongings in her will. This caused my parents and sister to approach me under false pretenses to reconnect, but our relationship didn't last due to their insincere intentions. I made it clear that they needed to treat us with respect if they wanted to be a part of our lives. Over time, my father genuinely reconnected with Luke and me, and we grew close. However, my relationship with my mother remained distant, though she treated Luke kindly. When Luke was 8, both my sister and I became pregnant. Suddenly, my sister wanted Luke back, claiming that my husband and I wouldn't love him anymore once our real child arrived. My husband met my son when he was 5, and we had been together for a year already. He treats Luke as his own, and we got married when Luke was 7. We officially adopted him when he was 9, with his consent. Luke knows he's not biologically mine, but he is my son in every other way. One day, Luke broke down crying, fearing we might leave him after hearing what my sister and her husband had said. This prompted me to cut contact with them again and seek family therapy and individual therapy for Luke. Despite the hurtful words, our love for Luke remained unwavering. When my sister reached out 2 years later, I decided to maintain minimal contact with Luke and my husband's approval. My husband and I live comfortably, while my sister and her husband face financial struggles. Despite their financial difficulties, I made it clear that it wasn't my responsibility to provide for my niece financially. While I still gave her gifts and occasional outings, it wasn't at the same level as what I did for my own children. Now that my second son is turning 17, my husband and I discussed getting him a budget-friendly starter car, just like we did for Luke when he turned 17. However, my niece, who is also turning 17, was under the impression that she would be getting a car too. Despite my sister's financial struggles, she expected me to foot the bill for my niece's car. I firmly refused, explaining that it wasn't my responsibility to buy her a car. When my son's birthday arrived, we surprised him with a car. This upset my niece, who called me in tears, accusing me of favoritism and questioning why I couldn't treat her the same as her brother. I calmly explained that while I loved her as my niece, my son was my own child, and my responsibilities toward them were different. I emphasized that as an aunt, my role was limited to birthday and Christmas gifts and being there for important occasions. My niece became angrier and accused me of being unfair before hanging up. My sister then called to criticize me for not doing more for her daughter. I reminded her that if she hadn't made promises on my behalf, none of this would have happened. Now I'm receiving backlash from some family members and my sister's friends, labeling me as selfish. I do feel guilty because my children had more opportunities, and perhaps I could have helped my niece more, but I stood by my decision. Update 1. To clarify, my sister's involvement in my children's lives was limited to low-contact arrangements regarding my niece, Emily. She never had unsupervised access to my kids, and was only involved in discussions about birthdays and holidays. The reason for maintaining a civil relationship with my sister was primarily due to Emily attending the same school as my second son, Justin. This meant my sister was present at school events, fostering a positive relationship between my kids and Emily. Prior to the car incident, my kids and niece had a good relationship, particularly Justin and Emily, who were close. Luke and Emily also shared a friendly rapport. I'd always prioritized my children's happiness and ensured they were comfortable with the level of interaction with my sister, which was mostly limited to school events and family gatherings. 2 days after Emily's upset phone call, I initiated a meeting with her at a nearby park. During our conversation, Emily expressed feeling jealous that Luke and Justin seemed to get everything they wanted. I explained to her that while Luke is her cousin, not her brother, and clarified that my children earn what they have through hard work. They maintain good grades, help with chores, and generally stay out of trouble. I then gently probed Emily for the underlying reason behind her sudden distress, noting that this behavior was out of character for her. Tearfully, she expressed her frustration at feeling like she's overlooked compared to Luke and Justin, particularly because Luke was formally adopted into our family. She felt entitled to the same treatment and opportunities as my sons, believing that being family meant I had a responsibility to provide for her as well. When I asked her to elaborate on why she felt so strongly about this, she revealed that while her parents provide for her, she often feels like an obligation rather than a cherished member of the family. Seeing the close-knit dynamic between Luke, Justin, and our family intensified her feelings of inadequacy and jealousy. Despite my efforts to include her in our family activities, she still felt like an outsider, always having to leave while the others remained together. She felt like she was constantly in second place, and since I took in Luke, she believed I should have no issue taking her in too. I sympathized with her feelings but reiterated that while I cared deeply for her, I couldn't treat her as my own child. I reminded her that her parents are responsible for providing for her needs, including getting her a car if that's what they agreed upon. This seemed to upset her further, as she accused me of not caring about her before storming off. I followed up with a text message, reassuring her of my love and concern for her well-being, but also reiterating that I couldn't assume the role of her parent. After discussing with my husband, we made the decision to initiate full no contact with my sister and her family. When I conveyed this to my sister, she inquired about staying in touch with Emily. I made it clear that Emily, being nearly an adult, could reach out to me if she wished. Regarding the issue of getting Emily a car, I firmly reminded my sister of her role as Emily's mother and emphasized that it was her responsibility to provide for her daughter's needs. After this exchange, I promptly blocked and deleted my sister's contact information. The following day, my mother contacted me, suggesting that I offer financial assistance to Emily for a car. Refusing to engage in further conflict, I declined her suggestion and ended the call. I then reached out to my father to explain the situation, and he supported my decision. Subsequently, my father expressed his desire to visit me on Wednesday. Upon his arrival, he appeared visibly upset, revealing that my mother had withdrawn a significant amount of money from their retirement fund to support my sister. This action resulted in a heated argument between my parents, leading my father to leave and stay in a motel temporarily. Consequently, I am now in a state of no contact with both my sister and my mother, while maintaining low contact with my niece for the time being. Update 2. About a week after the previous events, I decided to have a heart-to-heart conversation with Emily. We arranged to meet at my home, and I requested everyone else to be out so that we could talk privately. When she arrived, she seemed hesitant, but I asked if I could hug her, which she silently agreed to. As soon as we embraced, she broke into tears, expressing her remorse for her previous behavior, to which I assured her she didn't need to apologize. I delved into understanding more about her relationship with her parents. Emily shared that while her dad tries to spend time with her despite his busy schedule working 2 jobs, her mom tends to keep to herself, especially during arguments about finances. Although she sometimes feels like an obligation to her mom, she acknowledges that both her parents do love her. We discussed the recent financial situation involving my mother withdrawing money from the retirement fund for car shopping with my sister. Emily confirmed their plans and then opened up about her perspective on her relationship with Luke. She clarified that while she had referred to him as her brother to seek my help, she understands that they are cousins and always will be, despite being biologically related. She had learned the unfiltered truth about Luke's adoption from her father, contrasting with her mother's sugar-coated version. I suggested the idea of therapy, which my husband and I would cover, and Emily agreed to consider it. Additionally, I proposed spending quality time together on Saturdays, which excited her. On our first outing, we went to a restaurant she had wanted to try, followed by a trip to a bookstore where I bought her some books she had been eyeing. It was a delightful day, and Emily seemed genuinely happy. When Emily and I were supposed to have our second outing, I had to cancel because Justin was hospitalized. During football practice, he experienced wheezing and took his inhaler hastily before being tackled, triggering a severe asthma attack. He remained in the hospital from Friday until Sunday. On the day of our planned outing, I called Emily in the morning to explain the situation, but before I could, she began yelling accusations, claiming I never cared about her, and abruptly hung up. Despite my attempts to reach out, she didn't respond. Eventually, I sent her a text apologizing and suggesting we reschedule for the following weekend, but received no reply. Feeling disheartened, I ceased further attempts to contact her. 2 days ago, during a family night out, we received a call from our neighbors reporting vandalism to one of our cars. Upon returning home, we discovered extensive damage to Justin's car, including scratches, dents, broken windows, and paint damage. Reviewing our security footage revealed Emily and an accomplice vandalizing the car. We promptly provided the video evidence to the police, resulting in Emily and her friend's arrest the following morning. In response, my sister and mother visited, demanding I drop the charges to spare Emily from consequences. Despite their pleas, my husband and I remained firm in pursuing legal action, a decision supported by Justin, Luke, and my husband. Given the gravity of the situation, I sought Luke's perspective, and he expressed his desire to sever ties with everyone, including Emily, likening her behavior to that of her mother. As a result, we have decided to cut contact with everyone except my father. Relevant comments. What does your dad think of all of this? He's upset with Emily, but not surprised by her. He agrees to press charges also and says not to back out of pressing charges. I think he's just tired and wants everything to calm down. One more explanation for why OOP didn't cut contact before this. The reason for me having contact with my sister and niece is Justin and Emily went to the same school and had the same classes. Anytime I went to a school event, my sister was there. I didn't want Justin to be in a hostile environment at school, so I thought having a semi-civil relationship would be best, especially when Emily and Justin were making friends with the same people. I didn't want to move Justin out of the school because it's a very good school and he already loved it there. With my parents, we came in contact after my grandmother died and the will was read. That was when Luke was 6. My mom tried to be nice because I was left with 90% of my grandmother's things. My dad actually tried to have a relationship with everyone, and he admitted his wrongdoings. This took years to build up, not just a simple, "I'm sorry," and we were good.